Would like to call to order this meeting of the Apple Valley Park and Recreation Advisory Committee for January the 2nd, 2025. This time I'd like to invite everyone present and who are willing and able to please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening, everyone. First up tonight, we need an agenda. Kayla has made one and given everybody a copy of it. My question to the members of the committee is, are there any additions or changes that anyone would like to make to tonight's agenda? Hearing nothing, I would pose the same question to Eric and staff.
No changes.
Nothing. Then I would entertain a motion to accept the evening's agenda as printed.
So moved.
I have a motion by Randy.
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That unanimously passes, and we now have an agenda for the evening. Moving on, next up is the audience participation, 10 minutes total time. Looking out, I don't think we're going to have any participation tonight. Could be wrong, but so I would just say something to the television audience, our vast television audience. Please come down and talk to us. We love to hear from the public. We're an advisory committee, and we love to have people give us their thoughts, their ideas, their criticisms. We meet the first Thursday every month at 7 p.m. And please come down and be a part of our meeting. We appreciate it. We love your input. So, moving on. The next thing is approval of the past meetings minutes. Kayla has put that together as usual, and we have that in our packet. My question to the members is, are there any changes that you think need to be made to that as it's printed? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to adopt the previous meeting's minutes.
Make a motion to approve the November 2024 minutes.
I have a motion from Noel.
Second.
Second from Craig. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that unanimously passes. Next up is item 5, number A, review parks and recreation financials. And I believe Eric is going to present that to us tonight.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, a while back you'd asked for a little bit more information related to park dedication. And so in preparing that, I thought we would talk more than just park dedication. We would talk a little bit about how the Park and Recreation Department's funded and what we use different money that we have available. And so give an explanation to not only the committee members, but anyone that might be watching as well. So the first slide I have up here that we often use is just, it lists the city's mission statement, our goals, and our keys to success. And this is what helps guide us do all of the work we do within the Parks and Recreation Department and as a city. So in Parks and Recreation, there's a number of different funding sources that we utilize to help put on the programs and services that we provide. We have divisional operational budgets that are sometimes funded, most of the time funded by the general fund. Sometimes they're considered a special operating fund, and sometimes they're considered an enterprise fund. We'll get into the details on those as we move through the presentation. We also have what's referred to as the Park Facilities Fund. We have park dedication funds. We use grant dollars, and sponsorships and donations from time to time. So the general fund is our main source of funding, and that's collected through the tax levy that the city council sets as part of their annual operating budget that they approve every year. They typically approve that in early December of each year, and the city of Apple Valley does a 2-year budget. So when the council approved the budget on December 12th, they were approving a budget for 2025 and for 2026. In Parks and Recreation case, the general fund funds all of our operational needs from park administration, our park maintenance, our recreation, the recreation self-supporting, Redwood, Splash Valley, the community center, and the senior center. Operational costs are the salaries that it takes for the people that work in the department to provide the programs and services that we provide. It pays for materials and supplies, whether it be softballs or fertilizer, or it pays for utilities, etc., like electricity. And so that's really just our operational expenses. If at the end of the year we haven't spent everything within that divisional budget, those dollars get transferred into the future capital projects fund that the city has, and that's true for not only the Park and Rec Department's divisional budgets, but any of the other cities' divisional budgets. And it's used to then help pay for future capital needs of the city, whether that be work here at City Hall or a fire station. It might be a park project. It really depends on where that money gets allocated by the city. Then we have what's referred to as special revenue fund. In a special revenue fund, the operations generated within that budget are designed to be enough to pay for the revenue expenses for that particular program. In this case, the example is the Valleywood Golf Course. So what we charge to use Valleywood, so greens fees, lessons, food and beverage, the driving range, golf cart rental, etc. The revenue we collect and the fees that we set are designed to be in excess of the expenses we expect to have to deliver those services. But we're also trying to collect enough money to pay for some of the capital needs that the facility has as well. And then in an enterprise fund, it's similar to the special revenue fund, only in an enterprise fund, it also includes capital needs and depreciation, and the examples of that are 2 ice arenas. Other examples within the city of an enterprise fund would be our water and sewer utility, as well as the liquor store operation. We have a park facilities fund, and that's really a capital fund that we have to help pay for future needs of the park system with regards to replacing existing park infrastructure. That fund was recently set up in the early 2020s. We have approximate balance of about $1.2 million in that fund. If we have budgeted to spend, and I'll just use an example, let's pretend that we budgeted to spend $100,000 in the parks utilities or parks facilities fund to replace some playground equipment at a specific park, but for some reason we can't accomplish that project. That $100,000 stays in the park facilities fund for the next year to be used on whether it be that playground equipment project that didn't get done or some other project that the committee and the city council might deem more important for whatever reason. There are scheduled transfers out of the general fund into this fund to help pay for these needs. And so we're really, you can almost think of it as a little bit of a savings account that we have to take care of capital needs within the park system. And this is something that we just started doing within the last few years. Then we have park dedication fund, and really this whole conversation was kind of started around we want to understand the park dedication fund a little bit more. So park dedication is collected from developers. So when a developer comes and they want to develop a raw piece of property in the city of Apple Valley that has not been developed yet, Minnesota state statute allows us, the city of Apple Valley, to charge what's referred to as a park dedication fee. And as a city, we have a plan of what our parks are going to be. And as a city, if the developer brings in a piece of property where we had planned to put a park, we can take land from the developer, and that would satisfy the developer's park dedication requirements. And so we could let's pretend we wanted a 5-acre park in that 40 acres that they wanted to develop. we could take the 5 acres and use that and develop that for park purposes. If the developer is developing 40 acres and we have no plans to build a park within that 40 acres, we could then choose to take cash in lieu of land. And I'll get into some of the numbers here in a couple slides. But we can take that cash, the developer's required to pay cash then, instead of giving us land, we put the cash into the fund that we call the Parks Development Fund, and then that money can be used for park capital needs. We can buy land with that money, and we can make capital improvements to parks with that money. We cannot use park dedication dollars for operational expenses. We can't use park dedication dollars to replace the furnace at some warming house in town. It has to be used to improve parks across the park system. Currently, there's a balance of approximately $2.3 million in the park dedication. Here's just a lot of words of basically what I just said as far as the state statute authorizes the city to collect park dedication if we choose to. Again, we can't use those dollars for operational expenses. It only can be used for capital expenses or purchasing land. And it can't be used by other departments to make capital expenditures, only park-related expenditures. Our current fees that we charge developers for single family is $75,000 per acre. So if we're collecting cash in lieu of, if a developer came in with 40 acres and they were planning to develop that land with single family, we would get $75,000 per acre for that single family development. And you can see the numbers on the screen. I won't read them to you, but depending on how the developer's planning to develop that land would dictate how much we would charge for cash in lieu of land. Then there's some fairly complex formulas on how we apply some of these other factors within the park dedication formula. But this is all part of our fees and charges that the City Council just recently approved, along with all of the city's fees and charges, not just parks and recreation. Another funding source that the city uses on a regular basis, or I shouldn't say on a regular basis, but when we have opportunities, is we seek out grants, whether that be federal grants, state grants, county grants, private grants. Usually when we get grant dollars, those are for specific purposes, and we have to do something very specific with it. We can't just, we're probably not going to get $100,000 to just use in the park system. We're going to get $100,000 to build a picnic shelter or to repair trails. Like we got a $250,000 Minnesota Department of Natural Resources grant to help us reconstruct the trails at Cobblestone. That's an example. We got, how much money did we get from the Minnesota Amateur Sports Commission?
260,000.
We had close to $300,000 from Minnesota Amateur Sports Commission for the Hayes Park Arena project, but it had to be used at Hayes Park for the refrigeration replacement. We couldn't use it to, buy hockey equipment or buy a Zamboni or something like that. It had to be used specifically on the refrigeration project. So often grant dollars are used for something very specific. Sometimes grants require a match of some kind. Sometimes they don't require a match. Within the last few years, we have received approximately $2.5 million worth of grants to help pay for things within the park system. And that kind of concludes my presentation, and I can stand and answer any questions committee members may have.
Just want to make sure I understand. So the general fund and the park facilities fund are basically taxpayer funded.
Correct.
The park dedication fund is developer funded.
Correct.
And the special, or the enterprise fund and the special revenue fund are user funded.
For the most part, yes. The special revenue fund could get dollars from the general fund, but our goal is to make sure that it's funded by user fees.
Okay. I think I understand it.
Now you're ready to be the city's next finance director.
Perfect.
It's open.
Yeah, it closes soon.
So the general fund is the one that you get your budget, in that you said if there's money left over, that goes back to the city's,
Future Project Capital Fund.
yeah.
And so the future, up until a few years ago, the Future Project Capital Fund was for the entire city. So if the fire department needed to do a project, it was in the Future Project Capital Fund. If we needed to do a project at the central maintenance facility, it was probably being funded out of the Future Projects Capital Fund. If we were doing a parks project, it was probably being funded out of the Future Projects Capital Fund. It's a mouthful. Within the last few years, we've started to divide that up a little bit so that there's a parks facilities fund portion of the Future Projects Capital Fund. There's a fire department, there's a city facilities portion of that, so that instead of having everything commingled together, if you will, it's been separated out a little bit. So as a park and rec department, our responsibility is to manage our projects within the dollars allocated, but we don't have to worry about, oh, but next year there's this fire project, so they're gonna get all the money and we don't have anything. So it's a way to make sure that everyone's needs are being taken care of within reason, without having to worry about what other things might be going on. Does that make sense?
It does. How often do we not spend all the money that we have to spend? I mean,
In the Future Project Capital Fund?
well, where you said that if there's money that has been left over, it goes back to the
The general fund.
general fund.
So you're talking about our operational budgets?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that,
Well, obviously our goal is to never overspend our operational budgets, because that probably wouldn't be a good thing. So I would like to say that every year that there is money coming from our divisional's operational budgets going into the Future Projects Capitals Fund.
okay.
Sometimes a little bit more than others.
Okay.
Other questions?
Got one, Eric. The last major open piece of land in Apple Valley is near that Orchard Place, southwest of Pilot Knob and 42. I know that's, I think, tentatively largely going to be industrially zoned in the future. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
Will be some housing then that might result in some dedicated park dedication funds coming in eventually from that as it's developed?
So all forms of development require a park dedication
Okay.
fee, whether that be residential,
That's right.
commercial, or industrial. And so no matter what happens with the remaining land that's undeveloped, as it gets developed, it will be required to pay park dedication. We collect, as a city, we collect more if it's residentially going to be occupied by residents versus if it's going to be commercial or industrial. But we do collect cash or could extract land under any one of those scenarios. Probably the only time we're going to ask for land before all of it gets developed is we might be looking for some land that would butt up to existing Regatta Park to try to make Regatta Park just a little bit bigger than what it is today to be able to satisfy future needs
Yeah, I
that
guess
we
that was
might have at the time.
That was the real motivation for my question is what could we look forward to possibly for additional parkland that might come online as that is built up? So that's it, Regatta.
Yeah. As a city, as we develop that area, we're also trying to make sure that there's infrastructure that has to get put in, so stormwater infrastructure that's being put in as a part of all of that development. I think everyone's aware of the North Creek Regional Greenway. It goes from Lebanon Park all the way to Farmington, and then that kind of goes through that area. And so as a part of constructing that area and taking it from what is today a gravel pit to what will tomorrow be industrial, commercial, maybe some residential, we're trying to make sure that we provide areas for the North Creek Regional Greenway to meander through that. And then we want to build connecting trails to that North Creek Regional Greenway. And so when developers come in and they want to develop 100 acres and they want to put up a couple of warehouses, they're going to have to put up they're going to have to build some ponds. And we want to try to make the ponds be amenities to all of that so that while it may not be a park like Quarry Park or like Johnny Cake Park, it'll feel a little bit like a park because there's going to be a pond with a trail around it. So that it's going to feel like that and it's going to connect the community if that helps.
So we would be responsible for some of those trails in that Orchard Place?
As a city, yes. Sometimes it would be the street department, sometimes it might be the parks department, but as a city, yes.
Okay.
And I tend to think more of along the city lines, because at the end of the day, we are the city of Apple Valley. Which department ends up being responsible for it, you know, that's an argument that the staff gets to have in a back room somewhere.
Okay.
But our goal is to make it be beneficial to and attractive to
Right.
residents and people that come to Apple Valley.
Yep.
And that's ultimately what our job is.
Any other questions?
Does that help answer the question that was originally asked a number of months ago as far as park dedication?
For
and
me,
whatnot?
because I was the one that asked it, yes.
Just want to make sure that we responded appropriately.
At that time, didn't know how much money was in any of these funds, how it was coming in, how it would go out, so I think you explained it very well, so
Okay.
I thank you very much for that.
And we can make a note that annually we kind of give you an update on where those are, where all
I
that's
guess
at.
that was the other thing, because it was listed in there, that's what brought the whole thing up, is it said that we were supposed to review it annually, and we never had, and I didn't know what we would do if we did, so.
One thing we need to do is we need to look at our park dedication rates and make sure that they're where they need to be. They're probably a little bit low right now, so in the near future, we need to kind of compare ours to others and see if we can get them up a little bit more so that we can collect a little bit more. Okay?
All right. So we're going to move on to number 6, committee staff discussion items. Park referendum update.
Yep. And I think Kate is going to put another slide up here for me. There it is. So I know that the committee is well aware of what's going on, but for those that might be watching from home, here's a list of projects we're planning for in 2025 with regards to the parks referendum. So I think the committee and hopefully a lot of the community is aware that we started updating the Apple Valley Family Aquatic Center. We are rebranding that. It's now going to be called the Splash Valley Water Park. We started construction of that in October of '24. Contractors have been working on that since then. They are continuing to work on that over the winter months. There's a lot of indoor work that they're doing right now that they can do when it's cold outside. Then when spring hits, and hopefully spring will hit in March or April, not in April or May, they'll complete the outside work, and our goal is to have that park, the Splash Valley Water Park, reopened in time for the swimming season in early June. We are also planning to begin construction on the Hayes Park Westview Elementary School Youth Baseball Softball Rectangular Field Project. We would anticipate that the entire area, so that's the land on Westview south of the playground, of the school playground, and all of the athletic fields around the community center, senior center, north of the ice arena will all be under construction starting in about April of '25. We would hope that contractors will be done with construction by the middle to late August so that everything can get seeded within the seeding window. And the seeding window in Minnesota starts about August 10th and ends about the end of September. So we want to try to get everything seeded, as close to August 10th as possible, but no later than the end of September, so the grass can start to grow in. It's all going to get irrigated, so we'll have favorable growing conditions. It'll start to grow in September, October, November, December will hit. Then in the spring of '26, it'll get warm again and everything will start to grow again. It's highly unlikely that baseball and softball will be able to use the new athletic complex in the spring of '26. It's possible that rectangular sports could use some of the rectangular fields in the fall of '26. So there's going to be two seasons where baseball and softball will not be played at Hayes because of construction. And hopefully it's just a 1 year delay for fall rectangular sports. As you recall, we're lighting the 4 youth baseball softball fields. We're lighting the rectangular field north of that, and we're also planning to light the U13 baseball field. So that will, again, all be under construction in this spring. We also plan to start construction of the Redwood Park project in about May of this year. That project will be under construction all of '25 into '26. We hope to get the pool done in time for the swimming season of June of '26. Fingers crossed. It's likely that the playground will lag a little bit behind that, so it might not be ready at the same time that the pool opens up, but hopefully pretty close to that. So that's exciting. We'll be going out for bid in that in February, signing contracts in March, and contractors getting going in April and May. Then we plan to start construction on Kelly Park in June, well, probably more like July or August of '25. And that construction will go through August of '26. We're out to bid right now for the Cobblestone Lake Trail improvements. That would be everything kind of on the west, north, and east side of Cobblestone Lake. Everything on the south side's already been reconstructed as a part of the Dakota County's North Creek Regional Greenway project. So basically everything else that hasn't been touched is going to get touched in '25 by us, and we're currently out for bid on that. We opened up bids on that project in January, like January 28th. So on January 28th, we'll know how much that project will cost. We expect it to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000. We are also have designs, we're working on designs for the concrete skate park at Johnny Cake West. We'll be under construction on that project this spring. And then we are currently out to bid on the 8 pickleball court project, 8-court pickleball court project that's going to go east of the tennis courts at Johnny Cake West or Eastview High School. The bids on that are opened up on the 29th of January, so we'll know exactly how much that project is going to cost, but we expect about $700,000 on that project. We also plan on lighting 8 of those courts, either the 8 new ones or the 8 existing ones. We're not exactly sure yet which of the 8 courts we're going to light, but it's going to be 8 of either the existing ones or 8 of the new ones. We'll be figuring that out here in the next 30 to 60 days. We are in the process of replacing 48 of our park ID signs, and that's the sign that sits on the street that says Farquhar Park or Moeller Park or you name the park. We're not doing any of our reader board sign ID signs yet. We're going to wait a little while because those are associated with like the community center project or the Redwood project. We're not replacing any of the signage at Johnny Cake yet. We want to make sure that we get through some of those projects before we try to figure out what we want to do with signage at those major parks, if you will. So hopefully by July-ish, we'll have all of our 48 park ID signs up throughout the park system. And then to cap off the summer, we're hoping to complete 9 neighborhood parks, which includes playground equipment, courts if there's courts within that park, trails, etc. So busy summer coming up in the Apple Valley Park system. A lot of construction happening. Our construction, we're going to try to do the best we can to communicate with residents what's happening in their neighborhood park. We'll have information on our website. We'll try to collect email addresses so that we can send out updates and notices if something's going to be closed or unavailable. Ask the community's patience, and we ask people to bear with us. But part of improving the park system means that some of it won't be available for a period of time while we make it better, so to speak. So with that, I can stand and answer any questions committee members may have.
Yeah, I've got a question. I know on the, looking forward to the new park identification and the signage. When we were looking at those signs, I know there was questions about how are we preventing the red from the city logo from turning pink through wear and tear. Can you elaborate on how the contractors or what the response is there on helping to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, so as part of our specifications, we have what we believe to be the best, at least best available products spec'd out to help, what do I want to say? give the longest life to the colors that we have so that there's not the fading that you would normally see from the sun and whatnot. Does it mean that it'll last forever? No, it won't last forever, but we have spec'd out products that will help make those signs last and look attractive as long as possible based on what technology and products are available in today's market.
Great, thanks.
I just had a question on the Kelly Park construction. The concert situation, are they still going to be able to have concerts? Or you were going to leave the one open and then construct the new one? Are we still going to be able to have concerts every summer there at that park?
Yep, so as it stands now, concerts typically last from June to early August. The last few years, they've started to do some in the fall. But as it stands right now, the bulk of the concerts happen between June and August, early August. We are planning to do work on what I tend to call the ends of the park. So the open field, the west side of the park, is where the new stage is going to go. And then the parking lot area on the east side, where we're going to add parking, those two pieces will be, that's where we're going to kind of start, if you will, in whether it's June or July or maybe even August. And then once the concert season's over, then we can start to work on what I'll call the center of the park, or where the restroom building is, where the splash pad is, where the playground is. And so we are going to do our very best to work around the concerts. If for some reason we have to let the contractors do more work because of whatever reason, we'll have to work with the Apple Valley Arts Foundation and just work around that. But I'm confident that we'll be able to work out whatever issue might pop up.
So the new entertainment area, will that be sodded then? So that would, or are you going to have to wait? Is that going to be seeded and
Yeah.
you have to wait for that to grow, or?
Not far enough along in the process to know whether that's going to be seeded or sodded yet.
Okay.
But getting there.
Any other questions?
I think you guys have done a great, amazing job.
A lot of good people behind the scenes doing a lot of good work.
Okay, they're
Between
doing
our,
amazing.
between our contractors, between our consultants, and our staff. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good work. And it's not, and I've said this before, it's not just our department. I mean, it's other departments. We're getting a lot of good help from our engineering department, from our stormwater people, from our natural resource people, our finance department, our administration, everyone chipping in to make sure that this is as successful for the community as possible.
And it shows, absolutely.
It's a team effort.
And it will show.
Eric, I have a couple there, maybe more operational questions. Can you give us an idea about the state of the outdoor rinks? I know we had a spate of warm weather, and now it's cooling off. Do we anticipate being able to open those soon? How long does it take to get those spun up when the weather turns cold like it has the past few days?
Yeah, I know our park maintenance staff will continue working on providing skatable ice as the weather allows us to. I'm sure that they were out today and into the evening, and will be out again early in the morning because it's cold enough now to do that. If you're interested in skating, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to guess that the ice conditions at Johnny Cake are much better than the ice conditions at Hayes, as an example. Because at Johnny Cake we have a concrete surface, and we just make ice a lot faster there. So if you're looking to go outdoor skating, probably look to that site before you might look at some of our neighborhood parks. But I know our staff is working hard at trying to provide that experience as long as the weather cooperates. I mean, we won't, if we get another warm spell, we might have to consider just saying, it looks like it's not going to happen this year. But right now, our effort is trying to make it happen for people.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
And then I think before our next meeting, if I remember correctly from the flyer that the city sent out, the Midwinter Fest will happen before we meet again. That's February 1st, I believe.
Yep, February 1st. I think it starts at
3:30.
3:30. Things start at 3:30. A lot of the normal stuff, or the stuff that we've been doing, will be there, as far as kids band and food trucks and beverages for both adults and families and youth. There will be garden cart rides, horse-drawn sleigh rides, fireworks, more of an adult band, if you will, later in the evening. So we'll see what the weather's like. Hopefully we'll have a little bit, hopefully we'll get some snow and it'll feel a little bit more like Midwinter Fest. But no matter what the weather's like, we'll do the best we can to celebrate winter, whether
Awesome.
it's 40 degrees or 20 degrees. Not any colder than that.
It ought to be fun.
It ought to be fun, yep.
You ought to
And
be
I think,
shot.
well, yeah, I won't make any promises about that.
Thank you, Eric. My daughter really looks forward to that, so I'm hoping that weather is agreeable enough and should be a good time. So thank you.
Awesome.
Just back to the skating real quick, the warming houses, are they gonna be open at all, or do we know what the final verdict on those
Taylor,
are?
you can probably do a better job of saying which ones are staffed and which ones aren't. I just can't keep all of that information in my brain.
I know that the Johnny Cake Activity Center is staffed as well as Galaxy. And there are 2 more, so let me look them up and I will,
Hayes is open.
well, it's open.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep, it's not staffed, but it's open. And then I want to say Huntington or Hagemeister. I will look and I will confirm in
Oh, that's all right.
1 minute.
I
mean,
can't
there
keep all
was-
that information in my brain.
There was talk of having somebody rotate around the different warming houses and not having each one of them staffed, or,
Yeah, I believe what we ended up doing was providing an opportunity for the public to push a button to turn the lights on if they wanted to go skating. I'm pretty sure that's where we landed, but I've been busy with park projects. Sorry.
no excuse.
Okay, I apologize. You got me. You got me.
All right, any other questions? All right, then we're at number 7, input from the committee members on the next agenda. Anyone?
Nothing that isn't already there?
This is an area I think we could do some improvement on, though, as far as, suggesting, and we have a good committee, and I'm sure we have good ideas, so if you get one, just jot it down sometime, and,
But the one that's on there, updated on the joint powers agreement, do you have an idea when that'll be, again, it's not urgent, just curious as to when you might have an idea of when we get an update on that.
So I don't remember exactly if this was the joint powers agreement that we're working on with the school district for the Westview Hayes project, or if this was joint powers agreements in general.
All of them.
So we are currently working on the joint powers agreement with the school district for the Westview property. We need to get that thing buttoned up soon here, and so hopefully we're able to do that. And then just as time allows, we'll start to work on updating the other ones. If the other ones take as much time and energy as the Westview one has, it's going to be a while before I have an update.
Yeah, I think the idea here is just to understand where do we have them? It doesn't have to be revising the existing agreements, but who's responsible for this and who's responsible for that, where we have shared.
Yeah, okay, so if the interest is more of a little of a high level.
Yeah.
We can provide that. That's easy to do. So yes, we can do that within the next meeting or 2.
Okay.
No problem. Go ahead.
are you done?
I was just gonna bring up a different topic.
Oh,
And that's just to remind those watching at home that we do have a vacancy on the Parks Committee. And so if there's anyone watching at home that wants to join this group and be involved in what's happening within the Park and Recreation system, they're encouraged to go to our website, fill out the Parks Committee application form, turn it in within the time frame that's on the website, and be considered amongst anyone else that decided to throw their name in the hat, so to speak. Obviously, the Parks Committee's been very busy with the Parks Referendum and all the parks projects, and they will continue to be involved and busy with those types of things. So if you want to be involved in that and have a say in what's happening, consider applying for the Parks Committee.
And just for information's sake, those positions are appointed by the city council, correct? So it's not any of us up here who gets to weigh in, but
Nope, and neither do I.
yeah.
I do have something. I brought it up a couple meetings ago about getting a tour of the new fire station.
Okay,
And your answer was, that would be easy.
that will be easy. as long as I remember to actually ask for the tour. So I will do that.
All right.
And maybe it'll be, it'll be our informal meeting at one of the next meetings,
Sure.
where we meet for an hour, get a quick tour over there, and then come over here for the regular meeting.
Sounds great.
Okay?
I'll just mention that we have warming houses available at the community center, the activity center at Johnny Cake, Galaxy Park, and Huntington Park. The warming houses at Apple Valley East, Hagemeister, and Valley Middle have user-activated lights where if people want to skate after dark, they can press the button and then the lights go on for a certain amount of time.
High tech.
Thank you, Kayla.
Happy to, yes.
Anything else from the committee?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion from Dave, second by Noel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good job.